I'm sorry to tell you, Morgan Rogers is right. Chelsea are the biggest club in London. That is a fact. Arsenal, because they're Premier League champions. But in terms of the biggest, it's Chelsea Football Club. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope everyone's well. Yes, Chelsea have announced the signing of Morgan Rogers. And I'll tell you something, this is exactly the type of signing Chelsea fans needed. This just lifts morale going into the next season. Chelsea beaten in the mud because of this ownership over the past 4 years. But this is a type of signing that make Chelsea fans stand up and think they maybe are a little bit ambitious. So we're going to break it all down. We'll have a look at why Morgan Rogers chose Chelsea, what it means for Chelsea moving forward, where he can fit tactically, and will Xabi Alonso get the best out of him, and how will he get the best out of him? And then we'll touch upon Alex Scott, who Chelsea have been linked with as well. But I just want to give you my thoughts on this signing, because I think this is a brilliant signing for Chelsea. I absolutely love watching Morgan Rogers. I loved him at Aston Villa. And the first thing I want to do actually is give Aston Villa some credit, because they've helped develop him as a player and as a man. And I think when you listen to Morgan Rogers, when you just look at him, how he conducts himself, you know he's a nice lad. You know he's a good egg. And when you invest in a player, whether it is to develop the player or ready-made player, you're also investing in his personality. And I think Chelsea have invested in the right personality. And obviously, he's good friends with Cole Palmer, and there's loads of people from the Manchester City Academy that he knows. So that is a little bit special. But if you can find somebody that looks at you the way Morgan Rogers looks at Xabi Alonso in this image, you've won in life. Look at the way Morgan Rogers is looking at Xabi Alonso. He's looking at him thinking, yes, I'm at Chelsea. Yes, I want to be here. Yes, I want you to be my manager. Yes, I want you to make me into a better player. When you've got a manager that knows the game, understands the game, and knows how to develop players, when you've got a player that is willing to learn, be developed, it's a match made in heaven. And I'm super excited for the way Morgan Rogers can just integrate his way into Chelsea. And I'm going to be honest, with Chelsea having one game next season, I think people are sleeping on Chelsea. Now, there's a long way to go for the transfer window. There's still a lot to do in terms of this squad for Chelsea, because there's some players there that aren't good enough, and there's some areas that do need improving. So there's still a long way to go in this transfer window. But judging by the players that have been linked, this transfer window seems a little bit different for Chelsea. So let's break it all down, because actually the first thing we need to do is just watch his welcome video, because that's a good start.
Official, Morgan Rogers has signed for Chelsea, 23-year-old England international, one of the best attackers in football. And the man himself is here with me now. Morgan, why Chelsea? Why now?
I'm joining the biggest club in London. The way the club wants to go and how it wants to move forward is something that I want to be a part of, and I think it was just perfect for me. I'm a free spirit, free-flowing footballer. Like to take risks, make things happen, change games, wherever that might take. Just can't wait to get going.
To announce a signing, What a way to get your fans excited for the season ahead. Now, with Chelsea having no European football, I'm telling you, they're going to be a bit different next season. They're going to cause a lot of teams problems, in my opinion. Now, it's interesting what's going to happen the rest of the window, in my opinion. But let's have a look at what Morgan Rogers had to say and why he joined Chelsea. I'm really excited about the project with the new manager, the players we've got, and where the club is heading, which is vital. That's why I'm here, and I can't wait to get started. I've had a few conversations with him, the Chelsea boss, Xabi Alonso, and I think that's important for me to be here, that I need to understand what the manager's like, how he is, and how he wants to operate. It very much fits the way I see the game, the way I want to play, the way I want to be me, and be free and express myself. Him being a part of that was a massive factor in me being here. And that right there is why your manager is so important. That right there is why an understanding of playing style is so important. Because I genuinely believe Morgan Rogers chose Chelsea, part of the reason because of the playing style and the manager. I think he met with Mikel Arteta, met with Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso said that he would allow him to express himself. And I've said this in multiple videos, even before Rogers made his choice. I said that Xabi Alonso is a better fit manager for Morgan Rogers than Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta is a type manager that wants to keep his players in certain zones. Doesn't want his players to be a free spirit. He doesn't want them entering into different zones. Whereas Xabi Alonso is a little bit different. He allows a little bit of versatility. He allows a little bit of positional rotations across the front line. That suits Rogers so much more. If you limit the areas Rogers can get into, you're taking away his best qualities. So if you allow him to express himself, be a little bit of a free spirit. Yes, you might want him in certain zones at certain times. That's natural because even Unai Emery did. But if you allow him to be a free spirit at times, that's where you get the best out of Morgan Rogers. So that is one of the reasons why he chose Chelsea. It's super important for your manager to speak to the players and your players that are arriving at the club to really buy into what the manager's telling them, because once they buy into what the manager's telling them, they'll listen throughout the time, the period they're here. And I feel like Xabi Alonso is starting to get grip of this dressing room and making everybody pull in the same direction. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Morgan Rogers, to me, seems like a little bit of a sponge. He consistently wants to learn, consistently knows that he has to improve and develop. That's the vibe I get off Morgan Rogers. That's the type of player that is a manager's dream, especially with these tactical flexibility. Now, Xabi Alonso can play many different systems. Morgan Rogers will play exactly the same way as what he would in his natural position, because that is Morgan Rogers. And when you watch him play, yes, he takes risks. He might lose possession once in a while, but that's exactly what I want from my players, to take those risks, especially from forward players. So Morgan Rogers to Chelsea, Xabi Alonso had a lot to play with it. Yes, the money might have been nice, but I don't feel like the money would have been too far apart from what Arsenal would offer him, if I'm being honest. So I don't think the money is that much of an impact when it comes to choosing between Chelsea and Arsenal, because the money won't be that far apart. So I genuinely think he chose Chelsea because he feels like it was the better fit for him. But it wasn't just about Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso probably played a huge part in it. Chelsea played a huge part in it because they are the biggest club in London, in my opinion. But also Cole Palmer would have played a huge part in it. Yes, Morgan Rogers on Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer has never texted me that much in his life. He's not great on his phone. He's been great on his phone this week. It's really nice for me to know that it means so much to somebody else to have me being here. And then he went on to say, I've known Cole since I was about 14, first in the England youth teams, and then when we were both at Manchester City. We've been speaking about this for a while. We always would love to have play together. So for it to happen, we're both excited. He's non-stop ringing my phone, texting me, and I can't wait. I think that's probably the most special thing, playing with one of your best friends, being around him every day. It's something really exciting about it. They're living the life, aren't they? Let's be honest. Like, you're playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world, who 9 times out of 10 will play in Europe. I know they've had the off-seasons, but I think they'll be back in Europe as of not next season, obviously the season afterwards. They're living the dream. Footballer, Chelsea, London lifestyle, playing with your best mate. Like next season, sometimes when you play with a smile on your face, it brings a little bit more out of you. And I feel like just from the vibes I'm getting, I could be wrong, that Cole Palmer is going to be very excited to hit the ground running next season. And Morgan Rogers wants to impress so much. And Morgan Rogers is better when he plays with that smile on his face. And once he gets that smile on his face, and when you're playing with your mates, it feels like you can play with that smile on your face. It allows you to deliver more consistently, in my opinion. It allows you to perform better. And I just feel like those two playing with each other is very exciting. And the chemistry those two can build, with João Pedro maybe ahead of them, if they play in a 4-2-3-1, for example, Estevao on the right, Cole Palmer in the centre, Morgan Rogers on the left, have them rotating, interchanging. João Pedro is a striker, sometimes Nicholas Jackson, if he doesn't leave. I think with one game a week, more time on the training pitch, they could actually build a beautiful chemistry. That's what I'm hoping to see, because I want to see this fluid, fast-paced football, a bit of transition, because I don't think Xabi Alonso going to a heavy possession-based team like Enzo Maresca, because that probably doesn't suit Morgan Rogers. And with Cole Palmer's vision, he can help you transition a little bit quickly. So I think it could be a recipe for magicalness. And Chelsea did put something out on the social media that I thought was absolutely brilliant. There's a few images here just to Morgan Rogers signing for... Look at that image, man. Look at the way they look at each other. Morgan Rogers signing for Chelsea. Man, I think Aston Villa have built him so well, you know. I want to give Aston Villa so much credit because his personality, everything about him has been exceptional. But I just think this is what I wanted to show you. The road to Chelsea, because I think this is a beautiful touch from Chelsea. This is literally Morgan Rogers' career from where he began to when he got to Chelsea. After starting his career at West Ham, Rogers joined Manchester City Academy in 2019. It was at City he was a first teammate of Cole Palmer in their FA Cup winning side, both scoring as he beat Chelsea 3-2 in 2020 final, coincidentally. Although he was involved in first team duties, he didn't make a competitive senior appearance at the Etihad. Instead, his first senior appearance came on loan at Lincoln. Rodgers' first professional goal came against Portsmouth in an impressive run which saw him EFL Young Player of the Month in March 2021. He helped Lincoln reach the League One playoff final but suffered defeat to Blackpool at Wembley. After another loan at Bournemouth, Rodgers made a permanent switch to Middlesbrough, where he was an instant hit. The highlight of his time at Riverside was a run in the League Cup semi-final before their campaign was ended at Chelsea. With it, so he beat Chelsea with Cole Palmer in the Youth Cup final, and then one of his most impressive runs, the League Cup semi-finals, to only get beat by Chelsea, was written in the stars that he ended up at Chelsea. His 5 League Cup goals made him the competition's top goal scorer, and his signature celebration, which is obviously the coldness of it. At the end of the winter 2024 transfer window, Rodgers joined Premier League club Aston Villa. Then we all know he was an absolute monster at Aston Villa, helping them get in the Champions League. In the Champions League, he became the second youngest English player to net a hat-trick in the competition. And then his form went strength to strength, winning PFA Young Player of the Year, and then helping Aston Villa lift the Europa League and re-qualify for Champions League before playing in the World Cup. And then he signs for Chelsea. Beautiful story. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm excited to see what Xabi Alonso can do with Morgan Rodgers, because I think he's an ideal manager for him, because his model is built on flexibility, rotation, constant movement, which gives Rodgers freedom and roam into the half spaces, get on the ball where he can manipulate, shift momentum into Chelsea's favour. Xabi Alonso also gives him that expression of freedom. Rodgers can slide between the left wing position, the number 10 position. If they play with 2 number 10s, he can sit comfortably as a left number 10 while Cole Palmer as a right number 10, which makes it extremely unpredictable for the opposition to pin down. But the reason why I say you need to give Rodgers the freedom to take risks. And I've seen a lot of people look at Morgan Rodgers' possession loss stats. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, am I going crazy here? Because I don't want my advanced players, those that are meant to make things happen, those are meant to create opportunities, to have 100% pass rate, because you're meant to take those risks. Not every risk gets pulled off, but the ones that get pulled off changes the game completely. That's exactly what Morgan Rodgers does. You heard it in the video at the start. And I mean, Morgan Rodgers ranked first or second among forwards in the Premier League 2025-26 season for progressive passes, passes ending in the final third, line-breaking passes in the final third, line-breaking passes leading to a goal, big chances created, goals outside the box. So that just explains Morgan Rodgers. So when you're looking at Morgan Rodgers' stats, you can't look at how many times he loses possession, because the eye test tells you that he's the one that takes a risk with the ball, and there's going to be a loss of possession from time to time, but you accept that because you want him taking those risks. And that's why I think he's a better suited for Xabi Alonso than Mikel Arteta, because Mikel Arteta limits the risks. He wants to play safe and try and work the way into the box, whereas Xabi Alonso wants to bring out your risk taking, which I love. So that's why I'm excited for Morgan Rodgers, because Xabi Alonso has that expressiveness like Unai Emery has. Unai Emery allowed Morgan Rodgers to take risks. That's why I think Unai Emery is a beautiful manager, because he doesn't want to limit your players. He wants him to express himself. He wants him to take shots from outside the box. He wants him to try those line-breaking passes. That's why I love Unai Emery. But Xabi Alonso wants that as well. And we're seeing that with Florian Wirtz. I know they're 2 different types of players, but what I mean by that is he allowed him to bring out his creativity side. And I think he'll do the same with Morgan Rodgers. So moving on, Bournemouth have rejected an offer from Chelsea for midfielder Alex Scott and expect him to stay at the club this summer. And apparently, according to Ben Jacobs, that offer was in the region of £64 million. Now, again, if Chelsea can get Alex Scott over the line, it's another signing where their fans stand up and think, do you know what? Maybe this club has tweaked its model a little bit. Maybe they have pivoted to what they were doing previously. And to be honest, they had to, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So they might actually be a little bit more competitive next season, in my opinion. But this apparently is another midfielder arriving. It does not guarantee Enzo Fernandez will be sold, although if his valuation of 120 million is met, he could still exit. Now, it's interesting to see what happens with the Alex Scott situation. I like Alex Scott, but I think Bournemouth are looking for about 90 million. I don't think he's worth 90 million. I think Bournemouth are overpricing him. So then if they come down in price, you'll meet somewhere halfway. But Bournemouth are in a sticky situation because Alex Scott has rejected a contract. He's got 2 years left on his contract. So Bournemouth need to work out the finances and look at the situation and be like, if we keep him for a year, his valuation's going to drop because next year he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. Will that year make up for 20 million loss if we keep Alex Scott? Because next year, when he's got 1 year left in his contract, probably going to be available for about 55 million, maybe below 40 million, 45 million. He's not going to be in the upper 80s to what they're asking for now. So if he doesn't sign a new contract, they might actually let him go this summer if they don't feel like they'll make up the difference that they're going to lose over the past 12 months. But I do think Chelsea will sign a midfielder this summer. Whether that be Alex Scott, I don't know, because Bournemouth are saying that he's not for sale. But any club said that. Newcastle said that about Alexander Isak last summer, and look what happened. So every player has a price. And Bournemouth are saying Alex Scott is not for sale. But I've got a feeling, and I don't know if I'm just throwing this out there because of the way Chelsea are acting, where Morgan Rogers just came out the blue. Are they going to try and hijack the Bruno Guimaraes deal? Is Chelsea going to look at Alex Scott and say, if Bournemouth are overpricing him, we may as well sign Bruno Guimaraes for what, 75 million, 80 million? Because I think Newcastle would sell for that price. And then Chelsea have got to look at what they want. Do they want Alex Scott, who's more of a project player, that you can develop into a better player? And he would need a little bit more time than what Bruno Guimaraes did. Or do you sign Bruno Guimaraes or somebody like Bruno Guimaraes? Doesn't have to be Bruno. Because what I'm trying to say is Bruno's going to help you for the now to get you closer to Arsenal. Whereas Alex Scott won't make you jump that far so much so quickly. Alex Scott would be a project player. Even though he's good enough to play in the Premier League, he's still learning his ways. Whereas Bruno Guimaraes is more of a plug-in player that's going to hit the ground running and you know exactly what you're going to get. But it's whether Bruno would be willing to leave Newcastle for a non-Champions League club. I don't know. Chelsea have obviously got the higher ceiling over Newcastle, so he could be looking at the situation and being like, where do I want to spend the next 4 years of my career? Do I want it in Newcastle, where we're probably not getting in the Champions League, or Chelsea, where we're probably all getting in the Champions League? But I do still think Bruno wants to move to Arsenal. But if that's off the table, Chelsea could step in. I don't know. Would you be happy with Alex Scott? Let me know in the comments below. Would you prefer them to hijack and get a deal out of nowhere for somebody like a Bruno Guimaraes? It doesn't have to be like him. It could be somebody else that's just as experienced, that is about 28, 29 years old. Let me know in the comments below, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you all watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.